Hi guys, so this is how we're going to be doing our notes and discussions for this unit. So instead of doing them during our Zoom sessions, you're going to watch these videos with me going through the slides just as I would in class, and then you're going to fill out the notes facts sheet that you have. That is a Google Doc. So basically, for each section, you just jot down. I think for you guys, I have 8 facts or 10. I can't remember exactly. But anyways, if there's 8, fill out 8. If there's 10, fill out 10. So let's go ahead and get started on ancient Egypt. This is chapter 11 in the textbook. All right, we're going to start off with geography of early Egypt. So the water and the fertile soil of the Nile Valley allowed for a great civilization to develop. Egypt is called the gift of the Nile because the Nile River was so important to Egypt's survival. Civilization developed after people began farming along the Nile River, and strong kings unified all of ancient Egypt. And there are some of the terms that should be familiar to you from your vocab table. Okay, the gift of the Nile. The Nile River is the longest river in the world. It brought life to Egypt and it allowed Egypt to thrive. It brought life to Egypt by transportation, traveling up and down, but also being near a river, a water source for farming with the flooding and how that helped things to grow there. The Nile begins in Central Africa and runs north through Egypt and runs into the Mediterranean Sea. So it actually starts down here and then flows out into the Mediterranean Sea. So it flows north. Ancient Egypt developed along a 750-mile stretch of the Nile. There are 2 regions of ancient Egypt. The southern part, which is kind of confusing, was called Upper Egypt. It was the upriver in relation to the Nile's flow. And northern Egypt was called Lower Egypt. It was downriver. South of Egypt, there was rocky terrain which caused cataracts or rapids to form. The first cataract marked the southern border of Upper Egypt, and then there were 5 more cataracts that lay farther south. In Lower Egypt, the Nile divided into several branches that fanned out and flowed into the Mediterranean Sea. And if we look back, this is what they're showing you there. The branches formed a delta, and that's a triangle-shaped area of land made from soil deposited by a river. And 2/3 of Egypt's fertile farmland was located in the Nile Delta, and this is the actual delta right in there, and it's marked there on that map for you. There you go. There's all, if you can see, all those little water sources that sprawl out from there. So in there, that area right here, this area is going to be very fertile and farming will be very successful there. Each year, rainfall south of Egypt caused floods in Upper Egypt in midsummer and in Lower Egypt in the fall. Now remember, Upper Egypt is actually in the southern portion and Lower Egypt is actually in the northern portion where the Nile Delta is. Nile's flooding coated the land around it with a rich silt. And without the Nile's regular flooding, people never could have farmed in Egypt. So civilizations do develop after farming began along the Nile River. Hunters and gatherers first moved into the Nile Valley more than 12,000 years ago. And by 4500 BC, they were living in small villages. They grew wheat and barley. And over time, farmers in Egypt developed an irrigation system. Egyptians enjoyed a varied diet of wheat, barley, fruits, vegetables, cattle, sheep, fish, wild geese, and ducks. There were 2 kingdoms. Egypt's location had natural barriers, which made it hard to invade Egypt. To the west, you had the desert, so it was too big and harsh to cross. And to the north, the Mediterranean Sea kept many enemies away. And to the east, there was more desert, and the Red Sea provided a natural barrier. And to the south, the Nile cataracts made sailing into Egypt hard because those are rapids, and it's hard to sail along rapids. The villages grew. Wealthy farmers became village leaders. They had strong leaders that controlled several of their villages. The villages banded together to form 2 kingdoms, and the capital of Lower Egypt was Pei in the Nile Delta, and the capital of Upper Egypt was Nikan on the Nile's west bank. Strong kings will unify, which means bring together Egypt. Menes rose to power in Upper Egypt around 3100 BC. He invaded Lower Egypt and married one of their princesses to unify the two kingdoms. So through that marriage, they were united and brought together. Menes was considered to be the first pharaoh, and that's the title used by the rulers of ancient Egypt. They founded Egypt's first dynasty or series of rulers from the same family, and they built a new capital city, Memphis, at the southern tip of the Nile Delta. The first dynasty ruled for about 200 years, and over the years, around 30 different dynasties would rule ancient Egypt over a span of 2,500 years. So that is the end of section 1. So now you should go ahead and fill out your notes activity document that I have attached to this assignment.